So welcome to the GEMS One Stimulus webinar. Actually being held today, we had intended simultaneously in the RJO exclusive chat room. We are learning the technology as it relates to this. And we actually did a test yesterday, which ran extremely smoothly. But today, it looks like it's not rebroadcasting on the Facebook page. We will post it there in case you or your staff want to take a look at this at a later date. For those of you who don't know me, my name is George Prout. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at GEMS One. And along with me today as moderator is Mr. Bob Mullen. Hey, Bob.
Hey, George, how you doing?
I'm good. And I love having Bob. He is technologically extremely savvy. He also is proud to say that he's a fifth-generation jeweler, which is an accomplishment in of it itself.
Pretty good.
I also enjoy the fact that from what Bob tells me, no Mullen has ever held a torch. I think that's
correct.
quite an accomplishment.
127 years of merchants.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I admire and appreciate people who have skills with their hands and who can do wonderful things. For them, jewelry isn't just something you sell, it's an art form. But I do think that in the context of Mullins Jewelers, a series of Mullins have learned how to make money in this business, and that is pretty cool. The other thing I love about Bob is I think if he didn't need to do social media to generate sales for his store, I think he'd still do it as a hobby because he just loves it. He just eats, breathes, and sleeps it. I love being surrounded by people who are like that. And he's just one of those great go-to guys.
Thanks,
in today's webinar, we're actually, let's just click here. We're actually going to be sharing with you tons and tons of practical content. By way of introduction of this, I was actually in India back in early February when things started to get a little weird. And I was actually doing product development at the time in anticipation of the Christmas cycle. Normally I go to the Hong Kong show for a week, and then I also will take a side trip to either China or India, just confirming my suspicions about what's likely to be new and being promoted. But this time, because of the pandemic, I got home actually just in time. And a couple of days later, I got new tickets for Amit, who had attended with me, and got him home. And I immediately started talking with Anuj, who's the CEO of GEMS One, about what we ought to be doing. You should know that 4 years ago, we bought our advertising agency, so I run that. And we came to the conclusion that it would be critically important that we produce content for you guys, so that at some point, as America comes out of this, and it looks like sequentially different areas already are, it would be great if we could pre-produce some of the content that you might use to relaunch your store. I will also tell you, as I always do, for those of you who attend the RJO seminar that we do the night before each RJO show, you will not be ambushed by a sales pitch today. Yes, I do get involved in sales and I do work with the sales team, but that's not what these kinds of seminars and webinars are about. This is about sharing ideas with you, sharing content that you can use, and virtually everything that's on here today is free. At the end of the webinar, we'll also review a test that I'm doing because I think you might find that interesting. A way to target consumers who are visiting your competitors' websites. This is actually unbelievably, shockingly powerful new technology. When I first came in contact with it last December, I really didn't fully understand what it was. And when I took another look and realized it, I actually became concerned that it was illegal. We have subsequently discovered that it's not illegal, and we're about to test it. And I think you'll enjoy learning about it. But first, let me make a few observations. Like you, I have been reading online. I have been watching the news. I have been attending webinars. I've been trying to learn everything that I can. And I think I can reasonably say that all of the pundits are now talking about how things will never, ever be the same. It is entirely possible that they're right. But I would temper that concern about change with this, the reality that people really only change how they behave when their beliefs change. As a former competitive athlete back in high school and college, as well as a mentor of sales reps for the last 25 or 30 years, I have certainly learned that the only way I can change people's behavior is to change their beliefs. So similarly, as you think about the consumers who you're going to be serving now, the same people you've known all your lives, to what extent do you think they'll actually be changed? Now, I think it would be safe to say that all Americans lie somewhere on the following spectrum. somewhere between, oh my God, and I've certainly talked with people who are totally freaked out, all the way to what virus, as in they're not even sure that anything really significantly has happened other than the fact that they had to close their businesses. That was significant. Now, America's heterogeneous, but different geography, I think it's reasonable to predict, will possess different clusters of attitudes in this regard. So, our office is in Manhattan. Jody and I live in North Central Pennsylvania. That area of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut is probably going to be densely populated with people who are in the oh my God realm. At the other end of the spectrum is places like Texas and Oklahoma and Iowa, where what I detect in watching the news as well as talking to people there, it seems as though they're in what virus mode. And then there are a bunch of states like California, Virginia, and Maryland that are somewhere in between. So recognize that in your market, there will be consumers who actually come from all parts of the spectrum. They may skew towards the what virus mentality in Texas and Oklahoma, and they may skew toward the oh my God mentality in New York and New Jersey. But clearly there will be different sections of the overall consumer base who lie all over the place. So in your actions and your advertising, you must appeal to each of those psychological segments wherever possible. And I think the way to think about this is to do a segmentation analysis, which I've done for you here. Now, I've split the circle into 3 equal pie slices. I'm not sure there will be many places where they're literally like this, but I think you can assign attributes to the consumers who you see. Some who are very scared, you'll see a big behavioral change. Some who are kind of scared, a smaller behavioral change. And those who really haven't been impacted, for whom there will be no behavioral change. But make sure your advertising speaks to all 3 groups. Now, observation number 2 is that bridal will now be even more important. It was already terribly important. We saw a general decline in interest in high-end jewelry from affluent consumers after 2008 and 2009, and that continued to reverberate downstream for 12 years. So I know all of you have increased your focus on bridal. But now, if you think back to what happened on September the 11th in 2001, immediately thereafter, nothing sold in the stores for 7 weeks. All of September, all of October. If you go back to your data and you look 20 years ago, business was absolutely terrible as consumers in America were getting over the shock of seeing the towers collapse. But then something really interesting started. Sometime in early November, there was a significant uptick in engagement ring sales. And at the time, I was VP of Sales and Marketing at a company called GDM, and the owner actually came to me and said, because he knew that I've always been big about studying data and try to understand what's happening from the data of what's really happening out in the minds of consumers. And he said, what's going on? And I mistakenly made the assumption that what we were seeing was pent-up demand in September and October finally manifesting itself in bridal sales in early November. But I was dead wrong. Clearly, there was some kind of psychological shift that had occurred. The chaos and the sense of loss and the sense of sadness and the sense of anxiety, all the things that happened that were associated with 9/11 psychologically and emotionally, caused couples to start to think about their relationship differently. And we saw a huge uptick in sales, both in November and in December in engagement rings. Interestingly, in the following year, weddings didn't shift upwards. But boy, for about a 2-month period, there were a whole lot more engagements than we had seen at any similar period in prior years. So I would encourage you to get positioned for some kind of a bridal consumption wave that is likely to occur 30 to 60 days after your area reopens. Finally, observation number 3. I've been in this business now since the mid-70s, so I have seen some downturns. I've never seen anything quite like what we're experiencing now, but I've certainly seen some difficult periods. And consistently in past downturns, stores that were aggressive when they came out had less of a sales dip, recovered more quickly, and clearly grew their market share during that process. So all I can tell you is here's a great rule. It's precisely when your competitors turn into turtles that you should become a rabbit. In normal times, it's slow and easy wins the race. But when things are weird, it's time for the weird to get going. you need to become that rabbit. You need to spend aggressively in your marketing. You need to be there. You need to be out in front of consumers in your community. Now is the time for you to grow your market share. You'll have less of a sales dip. And at some point, when things get back to whatever normal is, I think you'll find the growth in your market share will result in growth of sales. So now let's turn our focus to the elements associated with reopening. Step number one for us would be announcing that you're open. And in this context, we've created a tremendous amount of content for you in the social media area. So let me just move to, we have an extensive Google Drive that is available to all of you, where normally we only make it available to GEMS One customers, but if you're in RJO, I've told Sarah that we will make this available to any RJO member. We strongly believe in RJO, and we want to make sure that you're in a position to maximize whatever benefits we can give you. And in the social realm regarding how to get reopened, Bob, I'm going to turn this over to you. I'm going to go through some of these posters. And of course, these are available as posters, as posts that are appropriate for Facebook or Instagram. We've got all kinds of different versions of this on the drive. But Bob, would you speak to what you're going to be doing for your store and how you can use, in fact, Bob was involved in making some of these as well. So let me go ahead and highlight some of these as you talked with our audience about what you're going to be doing, what you think they should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the same way that the consumers are experiencing a spectrum and the states are experiencing a spectrum, I feel like our marketing also in a lot of ways has to be on that spectrum as well. We have to navigate this minefield now of when you're posting on social, you're going to be getting comments, or a lot of stores are getting comments of people questioning why you're open, why you're trying to sell. On the other side, you know, if you're talking about PPE and some of the different things that you're doing, you might get people that are saying it's no big deal. So as we try to balance between these two, we've also created a lot of social media images that are enabling you to be able to both promote some product and start to sell, while also being sensitive to where people are at on that spectrum in terms of showing and demonstrating the types of things that we're doing to protect our stores. The one thing I definitely want to focus on that I think is a really great feature we've added here are these frames. So what you're looking at here on the screen is a transparency. So you can either put an image behind that, your Facebook social media picture, or RLA, I know, was helping some customers. Hopefully they have time that they can still help some people out here with these. Yeah, great. These frames will go right over the top of your profile picture so that every single time you post on Facebook now, you can have this profile with the layover saying that we're open, saying that we're shopping, you know, saying that we're now back into than ever, which is a great opportunity to every single time you post be reinforcing that we're open, we're open, we're open, while also, you know, showing that we're aware of what's going on and showing that we care. You can see on the JL Winters one there an example of the frame. We've designed them in a circular way. You know, you post the picture on Facebook Square, but the little thumbnail shows up as a circle. So we've got it that way so that it'll fit inside and make sense inside the frame and not get cut off or anything like that.
And also, Bob, just to interject from the way you've described this, when our customer chooses to use this, there's going to be a notification every time they make a change to this to a significant portion of people that follow their Facebook page.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you change out your cover photos or anytime you change out your profile pictures, a decent number of fans definitely see that, which is nice. And in the stores that I've seen that have started to use these, there's been a lot of comments from people saying, welcome back, we're glad to have you. It's, you know, it's the kind of thing that you definitely want to be monitoring. You always want to be monitoring your social media comments, but certainly now more than ever, because you need to be ready in case people, you know, start throwing some nonsense on there. And I think really as stores, for me personally, the way that I look at it, I don't have any issue with defending myself, you know, in my decision to be open and the idea that we can take proper safety precautions. And that's what we've done by these posts here. There's a couple dozen of them, and they cover all the different, we tried to cover all the different scenarios you might find yourself in, using personal protective equipment, using social distancing, opening by appointment, having sanitation standards, cleaning the store. And they're all designed with under 20% text so that they can be promoted without getting penalized on Facebook. And they're sure to get a lot of reach on Facebook because they don't look like ads.
And now we've also built e-blasts, and I stopped at one of those where I actually specifically wrote this for a customer who is going to be taking a very strong stand as far as the fact that their store is going to be spotless. They will have PPE at the front door. They will ensure every customer that they've asked every prior customer who's walked in to wear a mask and wear gloves so that nothing has been left by any potential person who might have been infected. Now, as we've said, there are all kinds of consumers all across the spectrum, but if you've ever been a neat freak, now is the time to really maximize that.
Totally.
People are going to want to see that you're being very, very tidy and that you're constantly cleaning.
Yeah, absolutely. And these frames, emails, social media blasts, these can be on your page 5 minutes after we're done here. They're designed to be totally plug and play. You can put them right up.
Exactly. Let me also mention, by the way, while we're here, there once was a time in carriage trade stores where the sales associates in the store would always put on white gloves before they showed jewelry. I think in the at least the early stages of getting back open, it might be a terrific idea for you to reincorporate that into the way you work. I would not use latex. Latex sounds kind of icky. Nice white cotton gloves. You may even have your employees already using white cotton gloves when they put the goods away at night. But I would encourage you to wear white cotton gloves. Make it a special thing. Also, keep a salvage cloth at each case. Every time you pull out a piece of jewelry, salvage it before you hand it to the customer, and then salvage it again before you put it back in the case.
It's a great idea.
It actually conveys that a higher value to the jewelry you're showing, but it'll also keep things safe, won't it, Bob?
Yeah, and the latex gloves, most of the states that I've seen are not requiring them, and they're not saying to even use them, where like in Massachusetts, we're now required to wear masks. The gloves have not been part of it. Before we move on from this, George, a question on here in regards to how stores are going to be getting these materials if they're not GEMS One customers now. Are we going to be emailing registrants? How are we going to get this out to folks that are in our email system now?
If they're not a GEMS One customer, I'm going to be distributing the information about your specific sales representative to each of the people who registered. So that that way you can work through the sales representative to obtain access to the to the various Google Drive elements. It's pretty easy to navigate. If you just spend a little bit of time on the Google Drive, you'll be able to find what you're looking for. What else is happening in the chat room, Bob? What else are you seeing?
Yeah, it's a one-click download to get them on there and navigate. You can pull them, and they're a piece of cake to get.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
there's tons and tons there.
Yeah, and in terms of the streaming, there was a question. We're going to be sharing this webinar after the fact on the RJO exclusive group, and we can also put a link in there in the comments to the Google Drive as well, since it's going to be, we're sharing this to all the RJO members. But I would definitely say the local rep, right, is going to be the one reaching out, because we have the email of all the registrants. So I would lean on the reps. Is probably going to be the easiest way to get it.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, we have we have attracted a sales team that is, I would say, far more in the marketing consultant realm than in the let me show you my line realm. And they're super helpful, and they're all engaged and involved in their customers' marketing. So they're really, really dialed in to how to find this kind of content from us.
Anyway, that's all we got now for questions. So I think let's get on to the good stuff.
Well, let's go back then to the presentation. So that's step number one, is letting folks know that you're open. We then move to step number two. Unfortunately, 78% of American adults were hand to mouth before this thing happened. For most of them, their only store of value is their jewelry. It's regrettable, but it's all they have. And recognize I am not advocating that you make a profit based on other people's misfortune, but they're going to sell their gold with or without you. And so we think that you do them a service by ensuring that they get real value for what they're selling when they come to you. If they come to you, they're not going to get ripped off. They're going to be treated in a decent way. And who knows, at some future date, they may also become a customer of yours. So again, going to the Google Drive, let me just shift back. We have a tremendous quantity of We Buy Gold messages. And they range from need cash, we'll buy your gold, all the way to, do you have gold jewelry that you're not using anymore? If you do, let us help you repurpose it. This, in candor, is both a very nice way of saying, hey, if you need cash, we'll pay you cash for it. Or there may actually be some people, some of your better customers who have gold jewelry lying around. This may actually stimulate some activity in custom. So again, we have a tremendous number, and I'm just in here in the gold buying area, just showing the poster section. We've also built a series of TV ads. We've got 30-second spots. We've also got 15-second bookends. And I discovered back in 2009 and 2010, even for very upscale stores, you can run 30-second fairly hard-hitting ads, We Buy Gold, from midnight until 6 in the morning. And you're likely to pick up some of these consumers who frankly are a subset who are more likely to need to sell their gold, to need cash. And those consumers are there from midnight to 6, probably to a much greater degree than your regular customers are. So you can take a really hard line in your advertising then without compromising your brand equity. So that's a terrific time to be doing ads. Anything showing up in the questions or the chats on this, Bob?
No, nothing we need to address, just little stuff, nothing we need to address on here.
Gotcha. Okay, so again, buying gold is there's going to be a critical opportunity for the next 60 to 90 days. Do not miss that. So back to the presentation.
I'm looking forward to the next estate jewelry boom. That's the thing. It's like some people come in to sell the gold because they're looking for the light bill, and that's unfortunate. But a lot of people, they just want to buy another Coach purse, or they want, you know what I mean? They're just, and they have the nice stuff, which turns into the estate, which is super profitable. So there's always a silver lining, you know?
The other thing that people told me back in 2010, 2011, when the gold rush dried up, they still hadn't started to melt white gold. It would be very interesting to see so much white gold has been purchased over the course of the last decade. Are you now going to see a shift where you've got consumers melting white gold? I mean, we'll see as you reopen.
I mean, our estate cases are still 80% yellow, and I'm sure a lot of stores are. We haven't even gotten close to seeing the white gold coming in, which is exciting.
Well, this will be an opportunity perhaps to start to generate higher margins once you start buying jewelry that can be refurbished.
Yeah.
Okay, so step number 3 is capitalizing on both Mother's Day and the fact that it's springtime. So we have built a flip book, and in fact, let me just go back to Google, the Chrome, and I'll see if I can take us into that flip book. We've built an 8-page flip book where I must tell you that we originally built this back in February, and some of the new products in there, unfortunately, got trapped in India. So they haven't come. So we re-merchandise the book. So every single item in here is available in large quantities from us. So if you chose to distribute this book, you would be able to show all of these items on a special order basis. Everything's in stock. Everything's actually in stock in very good quantities. But we've also chosen to start, and I think you'll see this in everything we do for the balance of the year, more and more we're starting to think about how do we help you make sales as a digital retailer. So as an example, if somebody likes something on this page and they click on it, we've now built a separate Shopify website where, and we did this very quickly, where everything on each page is available to be purchased. So let's say your customer likes this, Kay's has been advertising the heck out of this double heart piece, even though they don't even have any stores open, but they're doing e-commerce with it. So if we were to go to that, your customer can now purchase that. We will transact the credit card and send you the retail profit dollars on the piece, and we'll ship it directly to your store. So, it seems to me it makes sense. As some of you may know, my wife owns a jewelry store. And, she doesn't even normally do a Mother's Day flyer. But given the fact that we're finally going to get to open in her market this coming Friday, we're going to distribute this multiple times, both as e-blasts as well as posts on Facebook. So we think there is a thing here. And this is something that we can react to very quickly. And then I've redesigned the front page so that after Mother's Day, literally next Monday, anyone who's doing this will flip this into something called Spring Sensations. It's all the same product. It's all the same artwork. It speaks to the same emotional things, but it no longer is out of date the day after Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And what's great is we can afford to do this at no charge. So we'll set up the book for you. We'll put your logo on it. We'll send you the flip book. You are totally good to go with this.
Yeah.
Are we seeing questions about this element, Bob?
Yeah, and one thing, and just to kind of answer it as well, if you click back to the shoppable catalog
Oh, sure. Yeah,
there
let's do
on
that.
the next page,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sorry, the next tab, the actual where, yeah, the Jewelry Express. One thing I think
exactly.
that's really important, and one of the things I like so much about Gems One is that Gems One is completely committed to not ever being a B2C company. It's purely B2B. So you'll notice that they're not going to gems1.com. They're going to a site, jewelryexpress.shop, that we created
Exactly.
for this. And so it's 100% designed to be wholesale. We're shipping them to the stores, right?
Yes.
On these,
Now,
there's just some questions about fulfillment and
for
credits
sure.
and how all that goes.
So on the fulfillment side, Anuj and Amit are going into the office every other day. So if you have orders for this for Mother's Day, we'll be able to ship them this week so that you'll receive them no later than Friday. Starting next week, every other day, and then probably the week after, we'll be back up and running where we'll actually have personnel in the office every single day. But
Yeah.
this way, we will initially be shipping to your stores so that you can then provide the piece to your customers. But I can tell you there's an additional element here, and that is that, oh, and we got tons and tons of social media. But the element that I'm going to talk about in a little bit is we are committed by June the 2nd. We are actually putting in place the fulfillment capacity so that we will be able to fulfill your customers' orders directly to them.
Yes.
So, and this is, it's something that we made the decision and a commitment to do because we could see, I mean, among other things, I don't want to spook anybody, but there is absolutely no guarantee that coronavirus doesn't make its circuit around the Southern Hemisphere and then come back to us next November.
Yeah.
If that occurs, if you're not in a position to be an e-tailer, you may not be in a position to make sales.
Yeah.
So we are absolutely committed. We have over 200,000 pieces in stock. So if the point comes where you can't be open, we can at least be open for you. And frankly, you know, I've been preaching for years. It's been long since past time for you to start being not just a brick and mortar retailer, but to also have at least some kind of e-commerce component to your business. And I know a lot of you have websites and you have shopping carts enabled, but you're really not selling much. I'm going to be spending a lot of the focus that I'll have over the next 6 months will be in building the tools that you need to become more effective. The thing you have that none of the retailers on the internet have is brand cachet in your local market. So what I'm going to be working on, what the whole team at RLA Creative will be working on, is giving you the tools so that you can start directing eyeballs and directing wallets to an e-commerce capability that you'll have because we can build it for you.
Yeah. A question regarding the flipbook, can it be emailed? Can the website be emailed? Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, what happens is the flipbook gets emailed. And then when the consumer clicks, they're going to go directly to this Shopify website. Now, we set this up just for the Mother's Day Spring Sensations book because we had to have a fast, seamless, mistake-free way of making sure that you could do e-commerce. I can tell you that over the course of the next month, you're going to end up seeing something totally different where we'll actually be able to plug something in on your website that you'll then own the shopping cart for, so you'll collect the money. I saw so many potential pitfalls to trying to do this that way now that I thought it's better not to make mistakes. I'd rather set this up so we know we can do it. But like I said, by June the 2nd, we'll be able to do this where you'll take the money and we'll ship the piece directly to your customer if that's the way they want to get it.
Yeah, and what I would definitely recommend, you can email the link, but also you can put that link over and over again in your social media posts. So as you're putting these posts up and sharing them, put the link to it so that they can immediately shop and handle fulfillment on it, for sure.
And let me also just go to the Google Drive. Again, as you would imagine, we've created a tremendous amount of content, both product-oriented content plus just fun, emotional content that has to do with Mother's Day. Also, this might be a good time for me to move quickly to a few of the new posts we've done. Let's see.
Yeah, while you're pulling that up, George, is there a charge for connecting to the Shopify website? No, the flipbook and the Shopify website are totally free.
Fortunately, there's absolutely no charge. All of this is completely free, guys. Anuj and I have had lengthy chats about what can we do to help you to not just start to sell again, but to reach out and touch your customers again and let them know that you're thinking about them. Honestly, that's an important thing too. I mean, we've all been through this extraordinary experience. It's nothing, we've never experienced anything like it. I can tell you that there are people who have been really damaged by it. They've been damaged financially. Some of them have been damaged health-wise. Some of them have been scared to death. I mean, there's just, and unfortunately, almost all of us have gained between 7 and 10 pounds. So we're actually not feeling very good about our physical appearance right now either. There, by the way, there is, in fact, I'll show you that right now. There is a cute little promotion that I think you can do as a result of that. So let me just take you through these. These are a few things that we just put up. This is stuff that you could start doing right now. You know, when women are putting on and taking off masks, unfortunately, they're catching their earring backs. And if it's standard gold earring backs, sometimes they're kind of easy to pull off. So I think all of you have probably stocked the silicone earring backs for their tighter for certain kinds of earrings. So I would offer these free. You can see on my wife's page, we're going to be doing that.
Yeah, those are great.
So we have a number of posts related to that.
And these are great to be done as emails or as or on social media as well, which is great.
Absolutely.
You can put them on your website as little banners and things.
And this is what I really like. If the average woman has gained 7 to 10 pounds, guess what? Her ring size has changed. And unfortunately, there's nothing she can do about it. It's going to take time for all of us to lose this weight, to diet it off, to work it off. And so the idea of let us size your ring and we'll resize it back within 12 months at no cost. I think that's a terrific thing to say to people because, you know, for most women, the rings they have also are filled with emotional content. And what a shame it would be to not be able to wear your engagement ring or your wedding band. This would be a great way of getting women in your store.
Two very quick questions because I know we got more stuff we want to get to.
Absolutely.
How do we know what store? So a customer goes online, buys. How does that get connected back to the store? How do we know which store that is?
Okay. In the shopping cart, when the consumer puts in their name, they also have to put in the name of the store that they want the piece shipped to. Otherwise, we won't process the sale. So that's how the consumer identifies their store. And fortunately, we normally work with a radius of exclusivity, so we wouldn't make the mistake. I mean, if it's somebody in Swansea, Massachusetts, we know it's you, right?
Yeah.
But also on the shopping cart, the consumer will actually be putting in the name of the store. So they're telling us where to ship the piece.
Great. And what's the markup on the flip book and the website?
Okay, everything in the flip book is at Keystone. We also have a version of the flip book where the initial piece is at 2.5 and then the piece in the flip book is on sale at Keystone. So we can build it for you either way and we can do it real fast.
Nice.
In fact, let me just mention towards the end of the seminar, I'm going to actually put out a poll where you will be able to tell me if you want to participate in some of these things. And if you do, you know, this will be an automated process. If you want that flip book, we can get all of these things done within 24 hours easily. I've got 4 full-time graphic artists and they are ready to do this stuff for you. So let me go back to the presentation and move to the next stop. As I said, Anuj and Amit, we're going in every other day to make sure we can ship to you. Step 4 is you need a way to reach out to your best customers. And for this, it just so happens that I had just finished a book called Milestones, which I wanted to use as a mailable digest or as a takeaway counter book to support something that those of you who are our customers or where right before Christmas, we sent you a book called The Classics, a 100-page representation of our in-stock program. So this is like an abridged version of that. And here I had Jody take a picture of me before this so you could see the size. It's an oversized, elongated piece, and it is absolutely gorgeous, taking products from the Classics book and identifying specific milestones and the emotions that those evoke in the context of jewelry. In fact, this book is all about emotion. As a matter of fact, what I'd like to do, let me just take you to the flip book of Milestones, which is on the, here we go. So this is the front cover. And then if you look at the page 2, I've broken the product apart into the various milestones that a woman might be celebrating and the kinds of gifts that would be appropriate. So we start with push presents. I mean, I think we're all aware that this coming December, there is going to be a baby boom, and you want to be positioned with push presents because all of a sudden, a lot of your customers are going to be delivering brand new babies. But those also dovetail with the mother's ring part of things. Then imagine a little girl, daddy's little girl gets gifts of a certain kind. At Sweet 16, those gifts evolve into probably something that's more complex and maybe a little more expensive. There then is that incredible "Will you marry me" gift giving opportunity that is associated with engagement rings. I do would be the jewelry she might wear on her wedding day. I did is those early anniversary celebrations. It's your birthday is something that happens every year. I would do it again is those more special anniversaries that come later in life, probably ending in 0s or 5s, where you've now got an older, more affluent couple with more discretionary income. And then finally, Love's Crossing, which is being advertised extensively by the majors, a look that we know your customers are going to be looking for. But I only put one page of copy in the book, and that page speaks to what I think is the emotional connection. So I just want to read you what I wrote. Milestones, those indelible signposts that mark key moments in life's journey. How will she remember them? As dim partitions, closing each of life's chapters in forgettable patterns of sameness, a soulless dance upon worn cobblestones? Or will she see her milestones as glimmering, shimmering spheres that mark key episodes in a memorable life, a life well lived? Can you catch a memory and put it in a bottle to be gazed upon with smiles and laughter? Yes, you can. And contained within these pages are the key ingredients that will mark her milestones, treasures that form the picture frames for paintings of the days that she will never forget. Now, those of you who've been in the jewelry business for a long time probably at some point succumbed to the disease of thinking that what you're selling is stones, metal, and labor. I can tell you you're not. This is what you're selling. You're selling this incredible emotional component. And let me just take a quick spin through the book to show you the kinds of products. So again, celebrating motherhood, push presents, daddy's little girl, Sweet 16, will you marry me? I do, the day of the wedding. I did, these anniversary gifts. It's your birthday. And I would do it again, these slightly more expensive, perhaps, anniversary gifts, and then finally Love's Crossing. So the great news in all of this is that we've printed the initial assortment of these books, and now we're ready to go back on press. Now, remember, jewelry is the one category that everybody can live without, but it is the only product that communicates emotional content, and that's what that book is about. So we've set this up, and Anuj and Prem and I had lengthy chats about what we could afford to do. We are going to underwrite the cost of the book. So these 32-page books are 50 cents printed and mailed. They're a nice heavy paper. They're mailed first class. We're actually going to be FedExing them to the local SCF, so we will be able to predict within 2 days when the books will hit. And everything in the book is in stock. What you're looking at is a small representation of our in-stock program. Everything is priced at a 2.5-time markup, which of course everybody will like. And additional books are 75 cents each printed and mailed. We chose to heavily subsidize the first 2,500 because we want more of our customers. We want more of you to be able to use this book to talk with your best customers. Best of all, a flip book is also available. If you're doing the print program, then you can also have the flip book at no charge. And it similarly will be set up with the Shopify website. So you'll be able to distribute the book to your 2,500 most important customers, but then e-blast the book and post the book and boost it through Facebook so that people who might not be shopping in your store will also see this. What better way to remember your key customers that you're there and you're thinking about them? So Bob, are we getting questions?
Yeah, we do. The thing I think about this book too, that as I when I think about it as we go through this, I'm reminded that 80% of our sales come from 20% of our customers. That usually means that it's under 1,000 people every year that are driving over 3/4 of our revenue. And to be able to hit them cheap, this is one of those things, like you said back at the moment, are you going to be the turtle or are you going to be the hare, right? Like, is this the time? Because I know nobody wants to spend money now on marketing. It's not a check I'm looking to spend. But at the same time, every store is thinking that way. And the stores that are aggressive are the ones that are going to win. And to do it cheap, I think is such a great way to try to get out there and make these sales happen, you know?
Well, also the opportunity to communicate with the 2,500 most important people, frankly, the 2,500 most important families in your professional sphere for $1,250. I mean, we're bearing about half the cost, and it's okay because over the course of time, keeping you connected with your best customers will keep us connected with you. We'll produce cash flow for you so that you can pay RJO so they can pay us. I mean, all the way around, there is a benefit to the ecosystem that we all live in.
Yeah.
And we just thought this would be a great way of accomplishing that.
The two questions specifically on the book, now that I'm done pontificating, can you do less than 2,500 for 50 cents each and still get the Flipbook and website? Well, the Flipbook and website are free, right? How about the quantities question, George?
The quantity, we want you to be distributing to 2,500 folks. If you don't have 2,500 people on your mailing list, we can certainly obtain through demographic criteria that you give us a group of consumers to mail this to. I mean, I just think at the end of the day, if you've got a $1,250 budget, this is a worthwhile way of spending that $1,250.
Yeah, and we've been doing that for years with the flyer. We look at age, income, all those demographics that are publicly available that we can buy to hyper in right on the best people. Is 2,500 the max?
No, 2,500 is the amount that we will subsidize at 50 cents a book. Any additional books are 75 cents printed and mailed. We're still subsidizing 25 cents on that.
Yeah,
but you know, remember.
Yeah.
Oh, pardon?
I was gonna say, did you show how big the book is too, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it is extremely big. And in addition to that, guys, it's 32 pages. I mean, it's big, it's heavy, it's nice. It's the kind of thing that you would put on your not dining table, your living room table.
It's mirrored off the classics book for any stores that got that earlier.
Well, and the other thing that was important is, and you may have noticed this, we've changed the way we're doing our photography, and you're going to see us change this in other things we're doing. So we're shooting the pieces live together on a background rather than shooting them and then silhouetting them and retouching them. So it produces a far more upscale appearance. It almost looks like the jewelry's literally laying there on the page, which is quite beneficial.
Yeah. In terms of, two questions. In terms of samples for the book, also get in touch with the rep, I would imagine, for that?
Yeah, actually, again, towards the end of the presentation, I'm going to launch the polls. If this is something that's interesting for you, all you have to do is click yes, and we'll get in touch with you to go through the specifics.
Okay.
I'll also tell you that I want to try to get this run put together over the course of the next week. As you're opening, what's good is we'll have Mail America print the books, but they will then hold them until you pull the trigger. The books will guaranteed they'll be in the home within 2 weeks of when you pull the trigger. So if you're in a market that's not open yet, and let's say you're Diamonds by Dawn in North Central New Jersey, you may not open until the first or second week of June, but we'll have the books printed, it'll be ready to launch, and then you simply let us know 2 weeks prior, and those books will be exactly where you want them to be in 2 weeks. Other questions?
It's kind of a tricky question to answer because the answer is going to be it depends. But how much inventory does a store need to buy to back up this book?
This book is a special order e-book. It is not our intention to force anybody to buy anything. I want to send this out. You know, at Christmas, it's probably smart to send a Christmas card. This is for 50 cents, a card you can send to your customers that says, "We're still here and we value you." And this is the first time in the history of your business where you've had a need to do that with your customers at this time of year.
Yeah.
Other questions you're seeing, Bob?
And the product that's in the book is similar to what's used in if folks are already Gemstone customers, the stuff is very similar to what's used in the lookbook and in the flyers, and it's all designed to work together, right?
Well, it's designed to have, it's designed for value, even at 2.5 markup. But as a general rule, it also fits into the higher levels with respect to diamond quality. I mean, you saw the various categories that we're fitting this into. You know, these were not promotional diamond clustery type pieces. These are the kinds of things, you know, we only sell to independent jewelers. We don't do anything with the majors. So this is the kind of product that if you're a Rolex dealer or a Hearts on Fire dealer, you know, this is what you're comfortable putting in your box. So it's that level of product for sure.
So we're not talking flyer goods here.
Well, no, I mean, I would say
we're not talking $49 silver.
Right? This is not the $199 and down type product that we know produces a lot of traffic. This is for the older, more affluent customer who's already shopping in your stores.
Nice.
So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's it for that. We can move on.
And then again, here's the big thing, introducing direct-to-consumer fulfillment capability on June 2nd. This is a really big deal. Nugent and I have been talking about doing this for years. And honestly, the pandemic is what flipped the switch. I mean, we've just come to the realization, if we don't help you, I mean, yes, you've got websites, and yes, you've got an activated card, and yes, you can sell online. But the vast majority of you really aren't. I mean, it sounds like a great idea, but it doesn't work unless you do some other stuff. And you'll see us as we get closer to June the 2nd, launching the other stuff, launching ways to drive eyeballs and drive wallets to your website so that people will start actually buying stuff that way. Because everything is evolving, and this is a required adaptation. The pandemic has, I mean, this is like the flood, guys. I mean, the flood came and now it's receding, and it's time for you to be living the way God said. And that includes having an e-commerce capability.
Yeah, I know there's a couple good things we really want to get to, so we gotta move on.
Yeah, we gotta go. Just to briefly go over it, recognize now that radio will be dirt cheap. In fact, if you listen to radio stations, you're hearing a lot of public service announcements. Now, as soon as things open up in your area, the car dealers are going to be all about it. But the reality is you're still going to be able to get super cheap radio. So if you're in a market where you can use it, I've written multiple scripts, a fun one, a way to put your stimulus on steroids, one about engagement rings, one about gold buying. I encourage you, if radio was ever something that you might do, this is going to be the time to pound it for a few weeks. Now, finally, let's go to the marketing test that I was talking about. And we call this predatory. I know some of you might be uncomfortable with that name, but when you see what it is, you'll understand why we're trying to differentiate it from standard reflective retargeted marketing. As I mentioned before you understand it, before I understood it, I thought that this was something that I'd seen before, and you may think so as well. But once you actually grasp what's going on here, you may, as I did, you may say to yourself, I wonder if this is actually legal. I can tell you that I spent 3 weeks in January and early February confirming its legality. I promise it's not going to get us in trouble. It's possible that this is not something that you're going to want to do in the EU. They've got different privacy laws there. It's a little different deal. But here in either the United States or Canada, it's totally legal. Let me just convert to display mode here. So let me explain to you with more specificity what we're talking about. This is part of the front page of my wife's website. And I can tell you, yes, there are definitely people visiting her site, and there are definitely people visiting your website. I can even tell you in our market, you know, where there are about 70,000 consumers. And, you know, I know from studying the data that means that there are probably about 700 engagement rings being bought by the population here every year. And you can do that math in your area as well. I mean, and where I'm extrapolating that from is last year, about 315 million Americans bought about 3.1 million engagement rings. So engagement ring sales are equal to 1% of the population in any market. Now, clearly, if you're in an inner city ghetto or if you're in a retirement community, then those numbers won't apply. But I would say for the vast, vast majority of independent jewelry stores, that 1% rule applies. So I have been working hard on my wife's store to move its engagement ring sales up, and we've more than tripled her engagement ring sales over the course of the last 3 years. But the unfortunate reality is, even though there are people on her website looking, there are actually a whole lot more people on everybody else's website. There are people on K.com and Blue Nile and Brilliant Earth. I mean, it's just a fact. No matter what I do for her in radio and direct mail and all the other stuff that we do, at the end of the day, there are a lot more people looking at her competitors' websites. And similarly, there are a lot more people looking at yours. Wouldn't it be amazing if we had a way of targeting any consumer, any IP address, any mobile phone advertiser ID that goes to any of these websites with an ad for your store? Think of the implications. For example, the internet-only play, the Blue Nile, James Allen, Brilliant Earth, Rare Carrot. I guarantee you that the people in your market are looking at these sites. In fact, the industry standard, I think, is that at least a couple of years ago, over 80% of engaging shoppers start shopping on the internet. And I'm willing to bet that number is even higher now. So over 80%, let's take Jody's market, over 80% of the 700 engaging shoppers are out there looking at sites like these. They're looking at the major sites. They're seeing K.com and Zales.com. They're seeing regionals. I mean, if you're in a market where there's a Diamond Direct or a Shane Co. or down in the Southeast with Reed's, you are definitely catering to consumers who are seeing these guys' websites, and you're missing consumers who are seeing those guys' websites and never find you. Even in the mass market, if you go to Amazon.com, this is the actual subdomain listing. If you put in either engagement ring or women's engagement ring, this is where that takes you. Same thing on eBay. Even on Walmart, if you wanted to see, if you're in a real rural market, you can actually see who's looking at Walmart engagement rings and give them ads. Consider legacy entities like Tiffany or De Beers. I mean, they're pounding with advertising. And gals in particular are going to look at these websites. And even the designers, Hearts on Fire, Rattani, Tacori Viraggio, Gabriel New York, and even The Knot. Many of you may have done advertising in the past 5 years on The Knot. This is the actual subdomain. Excuse me, if I go on The Knot and I click, I want to look at engagement rings, that's the subdomain I'm going to go to. And then finally, we can also target your local competitors. I can tell you in Jody's case, we've got 5 independents. In Canada, their websites aren't very good, but by God, I want to make sure that we can connect with any of those consumers. What I want to do is catch a much broader net. I'm not sure that the classic advertising techniques that I'm using are going to drive her much higher than a 20 or 25% market share. And I want to take her to a higher place. I want to get them all. And that's what the predatory marketing test is about. Now, I first learned about this in December. And as I mentioned, I didn't really understand what it was, or I would have immediately jumped on it. But then I discovered that one of our customers, a real good store and actually now they've got 3 stores in the Oklahoma City market, was doing it. And the data were breathtaking. As soon as they started, they had over a 500% increase in website traffic, and they had a 6-time increase on click-through of ads they were serving to people through this versus other digital methodologies. The problem I have with that kind of data is I am so tired of customer engagement. I'm so tired of hearing about, well, customer engagement and clicks and all that stuff. I can't buy shares of Microsoft with customer engagement, okay? I can't invest for our retirement with clicks. Show me the money, show me sales. To me, that was the critical thing that I don't see yet. So we're setting this test up, and actually 2 of the retailers start later this week with some of our highest volume customers. Now, this is not because they're getting special treatment, not in the slightest. It's actually because I can get data much more quickly because they get a lot more at bats. So it then occurred to me that because it's as inexpensive as it is, that some of you might want to participate. Here's what I want to do. I don't want to bet the farm, but I want to spend $2,000 a month for 2 months. That's going to buy us about 57,000 serves per month to these people who are going to other websites in our market. So I'm going to build a geofence around Jody's store of 30 miles. I'm going to target every one of those, that group of retailers that I already showed you, plus the 5 independents here. And we may even pick a few others. Fortunately, it doesn't cost anything. Doing the targeting, picking all these websites is all part of an automated process. So there's no cost to that. The only cost to this is when you serve the ads. I'm working with a company called Achieve 360. Robert Westall, who actually invented this technology. It's proprietary. It's very cool. I imagine at some point other people are going to figure it out, but I don't want to wait for other people to figure it out because we can do it right now. And at 3.5 cents per ad served, that's totally in line with what El Toro is charging for their IP targeted marketing and what other companies that do similar kinds of things do. The only difference is none of them know how to target these domains and subdomains. So I wanted to open this up to you. The other thing that encourages me about this is, yeah, I mean, you know, we're doing it with IDC, we're doing it with DGeller, we're doing it with some of our heavy hitter customers. But if each of you tested this for 2 months, we would get over 11.5 million ads sent out. And two things would happen. Thing number one is I'd have enough data that I'd start to really understand what the next step is. What's best practices? We can start testing different kinds of ads. We can start testing different ways of approaching this. We can start studying what is the actual purchasing journey that the consumer takes. I'm assuming it's a 30 to 90 day window for most people. Over the course of time, we're going to learn a lot of stuff with this. The one key though is, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, George, just to be clear on what's happening here, this is different than a retargeting ad where they're visiting our site. We're talking about any consumer that visits any one of these sites. We're going to be able to show display ads from our store to those people.
That's exactly right. Up until now, the only way that I could do this digital advertising was to have them visit our website. Okay, we then put a pixel on and then we could serve ads to them. We could serve to their computer at home. We could serve to their phone. One of the things that we'll probably anticipate is about 80% of the time, this is going to be an ad that's going to a cell phone because that's the way the millennial consumer is likely to buy and engage during shops.
And is this national or is this local or how are we knowing
Again, what's
going on?
We can either build a geofence based on a radius around a spot. So let's say that you want to do a 10-mile radius around a store, no problem. Or we can specify the specific zip codes. So as an example, one of the people we're testing with is on the northwest side of Philly. There are almost no engagement sales happening for them within a 3-mile radius of their store. It's the wrong consumer. But once you go beyond that, suddenly they have a tremendous amount of business. It's a $12 million store, and it's mostly about engagement rings. So we're going to target the zip codes where we know their customers are coming from, based on the notion that birds of a feather will flock together. I want to get those people, and I want to get their ad in front of them.
Yeah. So that means, so essentially what that means is that any customer within a 30-mile radius, say, or whatever radius we want.
Whatever you set.
We cast a 30-mile net and we say any customer that goes to Blue Nile, James Allen, Diamonds Direct, you know, Jared's, whatever, we can now start showing ads to our store to anyone inside of a 30-mile radius because we know that they're looking.
That is exactly right. Think of it this way. If you've ever gone fishing, I'm going to take you to the lake. I'm going to put you in a boat and take you to where we know the fish are. We're going to specifically identify which fish are hungry. And then we're going to cast to those fish. We're going to test this new way of casting the bait. The one thing I need to make sure of is that you use strong bait. Yeah. You know, we're not going to use frozen shrimp here. Let's use live shrimp. And in bridal, what is live shrimp? It's 5 years interest free. It's half off the engagement ring mounting. It's selected styles at 50% off. Okay, in Jody's case, we're going to do 5 years interest free. Now, my purpose here is I just want to find out if it works and start to get metrics so we understand how much it works. Then once we really have data, we can start adjusting and say, you know, maybe we don't need to do 5 years interest free, maybe 3 years interest free or 2 years interest free. Whatever those changes are, we can start to test them. And I think there will be so many of you doing this that we're going to start to discover, I would say by August, we're going to know exactly what best practices are. But for now, all I want to do is roll the dice, $2,000 a month for 2 months. That is going to get you 112,000 advertising impressions. Now, if we set a budget of 2,000, but we don't get enough advertising impressions, then you don't have to pay. Let's say that you only get 90,000 advertising impressions. So instead of spending $2,000 a month for 2 months, that number will actually be less than that. It might be $1,700.
Yeah.
And if the impressions go over, there will be no extra charge. Achieve 360 will eat that. And, you know, I think they're hoping that what this turns into is crack pipes. I mean, if we hand out a bunch of crack pipes and you guys like smoking crack, we're gonna be doing crack for a while, won't we? I mean, this is all about creating an advertising mechanism that may reinvent the kind of traffic that you have in the bridal counter.
Well, I mean,
so what questions are you getting?
Yeah, I mean, regarding the cost, it's $35 per thousand ads served.
So 3.5 cents per serve. So
And
that
I mean,
means,
I'm sorry. Well, I was going to say, I mean, I know in my market, you know, a billboard's $7,000 on the highway, and I have to hope someone sees it that is interested in engagement ring. This is $35 per thousand to 1,000 people that we know are looking at engagement rings.
that's exactly right. What we've completely, think about it another way. In a market with 100,000 people, that market is going to buy 1,000 engagement rings a year. That means there are roughly 2,000 people, because it's both her and him. There are 2,000 people that we would like to be able to speak to. The beauty of predatory is it eliminates the other 98,000. We are literally only spending money on people who want to buy an engagement ring. And we can cut it finer. If you want to, I can go to the subdomain within Blue Nile of consumers who are looking at 2 carat and above stones. If you want to do a special program, and one of the things we're going to be doing is once we can see which kinds of things people are looking at, we can then change the ad that's served so that it's more specifically parallel to what that consumer was looking for. But I think for right now, what we want to do is we want to specifically take engagement rings as a subset and go after that part.
Yeah, very, very quickly, it's $2,000 a month is what we're looking to commit to. It's only going to be $2,000 if we serve enough ads.
That's exactly right.
I mean, it could wind up being less than that depending on traffic. Just to clarify.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to ask anybody to bet the farm. Any of you who know me know that I'm all about data. I want to test this, but I got to tell you, one of the problems is this: when IDC down in Florida, an $85 million a year 9-store chain runs this, I guarantee you it's going to be successful because they have so much brand equity that anything they do works better than it works for other folks. Yeah. So the problem is the data I'm going to get if I only do D. Geller and IDC and Alberts, the data I'm going to get will be skewed towards stores that have massive brand equity. The benefit of spreading this out amongst a wider group of stores is that I'll be looking at what happens in the middle of the bell curve, because that's what we really want. At the end of the day, I want to be able to predict with a fair amount of certainty, if you spend X number of dollars, you're going to get Y results. And again, that's why I said, you may want to spend 10 grand a month on this, but we don't want to do that first. Yeah. Let's spend enough money so we can get a result. Once we've gotten the result, then we can start talking about how much you really ought to be doing.
Yeah. Two quick but important questions. Who's eligible to participate and how are we handling exclusivity in market?
Okay, so eligible to participate, again, because you're RJO, you're automatically in. I mean, I've told Sarah, we're going to help folks in any way that we absolutely can. I would say the only place where we might have a problem is if there is some exclusive arrangement that we already have with an existing customer who's not RJO, then we got to figure it out. But I don't think, I mean, I looked, we had 130 pre-registered jewelers, and I only saw 2 on the list for this webinar that were potentially an issue there. So yeah, I mean, if you want to do it, it's great. Like I said, I'm going to give you a poll. If this is something you're interested in, just click yes.
Yeah,
and we'll connect with you.
And how are we protecting the stores that do sign up?
Oh, okay. Yeah, oh, for sure. The other thing that's great is I didn't want to do this unless I could get an exclusive for Gems One in the vertical. So we were able to get an exclusive so that in the jewelry vertical, companies that have 20 stores or less have to go through us. The benefit of that is if you're in a town with 4 competitors, but you're our customer, those other 4 stores will not be able to use this to predate on your business. So yeah, everyone will be exclusive. I would have no interest in setting it up so that Smith Jewelers can watch Jones and Jones can watch Smith. Again, recognize this isn't a profit center for us. This is something where we know, I mean, for a lot of you, you don't even buy engagement rings from us. That's fine. All I want to do is prove that this works. If I can prove that this works, then there are other methods that we can use. And also, if we're driving a ton of engagement ring business for you guys, I've got a feeling that when our rep is in the area, you'll probably at least sit and have a cup of coffee. What other questions, Bob?
That's
good?
it. Yeah, no, that's it for right now. We're ready to move on for right now.
Okay, so we're a little late. Let me deal with one other thing. I want to tease you a little bit because there is a significant thing that's going to occur that's going to affect you. And I have been thinking about this pretty hard, and I think I've got a solution. The coming consumer credit crunch is a really spooky thing. The pandemic, unfortunately, has crushed consumer creditworthiness, unfortunately necessitating a complete recalibration of what's called risk assessment. Risk assessment is the mathematical model that the lender uses to predict whether or not a consumer is going to repay a loan. Primary lenders like Synchrony and Wells, who are basically the two big primaries in the jewelry business, will now elevate FICO score requirements, guys. Unfortunately, in fact, I was talking with a banker a couple of days ago, and bankers will now be requiring a 740 FICO score to buy a house. I think that Wells and Synchrony are probably, they've historically floated around 680 as their lowest. That's probably now going to tick up to about 730. So you're going to lose 50 points of FICO score from the middle of the bell curve. I think, unfortunately, you will see that a tremendous number of your potential bridal customers are going to be in that area that you're going to lose now, and will simultaneously result in a reduction of credit limits. So if you were normally getting credit limits between $7,000 and $12,000 from either Wells or Synchrony, I think suddenly those are going to slip to $4,000, $4,500, $5,000. The entire credit game is now going to change in the jewelry store retailing environment. So in my view, this necessitates the introduction of a strong secondary lender, focusing on this 640 to 720 FICO score. The area that you're going to miss, that you're used to getting, plus an area that is slightly below what you used to get. I think we can pick that up too. So I have worked with the secondary lender that I think is the best of class in this category. And we are just about to launch a setup where you can immediately put this secondary lender in place in your store. I will tell you that I'm actually also working with a tech company to be able to put a tertiary lender in below these guys. And that may come about over the course of the next 2 months. But for the time being, having this strong secondary lender might be the difference between continuing to have a vibrant, vital bridal business and not having it. So I think this is critically important. The beauty of this is it doesn't cost anything to put these guys in place. And as a general rule, going into these lower tier customers is going to cost you about 2% more as a discount rate versus what Wells or Synchrony charges. So, this is not a scenario that like what I've seen before where, a 12 or 14 or 16% discount rate just to sell a $3,000 engagement ring. That makes no sense to me. But if you can do 6 months same as cash at 3.99 and then have the customer pay out at whatever rate they pay out and get that sale, whereas otherwise you can't get that consumer finance, that's a really big deal. We getting questions, Bob?
None that I haven't been able to answer, just in the chat, recording, stuff like that.
Excellent, that's good. So let me go to the polls then. I'm going to launch polling for 4 questions. The first question is, would you like to participate in the predatory marketing test? If you say yes, then we'll reach out to you and we'll figure out, what should the radius be? Who should the internet retailers be? Those kinds of things report. Oh, hey, Noreen McGank has raised her hand. I just saw that, Bob. Can you find out what she's looking for?
Yes,
we've got lots of hands getting raised.
Yeah, we've answered. So they might be I think they might be raising their hand as a yes, they want to participate.
Oh, cool.
So let's get the poll out. That's my guess.
So here's the deal. When I click launch the poll, then you guys will be able to say yes. And if you say yes, then I'll get that list after we shut down the webinar, and we'll reach back out to you within 24 hours for sure. Yeah, I think you're right, Bob. I think
the poll's going to pop up.
Okay, so that poll has now launched. All right, so that's now in progress. So let's go to, let's see, because we haven't done multiple polls before. Ooh, you know what's cool? 92% of you are saying yes, you want to play. So that's a good thing. I am real glad to see that. Let's go. Let's see if we can do multiple polls at once. You know what? I apologize, guys. It looks like we can't. So let's let this populate. I'll let this run for a second. I've got a total of 4 polls because what I want to do is automate these processes so we can reach out to you and take care of you as quickly as possible. So it looks like we're running 83% yes, 17% no. So that's a pretty good thing. And almost everybody's voted. So let me go ahead and end the polling. You can always reach out to me directly at info@gemsone.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions or work directly with you on this stuff. So we're going to end that poll. Let's go to the next poll, which is, relaunch polling. We'll clear the existing polling results. Yes, okay. All right, whoops. So sorry about this, guys. We haven't done this particular element before.
Yeah, let's vote one more time. You might have to, is there a button to close the poll, George? You should put that back up. I don't know if it's gonna save it or not. Yeah, you know what? Let's put the, if you can, put the poll up one more time.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm going to close the poll, and now let's open it again.
I think it reset it when it got taken down there.
Okay, let's see. Rats, guys. Well, I apologize. End polling. Yeah, it looks like I can't get to these others. Rats. Okay.
Yeah, George, let's do this. Whoever does, if you can just type yes in the chat or say yes to predatory in the chat, I can get it that way.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
As well. As just a workaround.
Oh, here we go. No. I can do 2 here. My apology. Okay. Would you like for us to prepare the Mother's Day Spring Sensations flipbook for your store? All right. What this means is there's no charge for this. If you want us to do this, we'll plant your logo on the Mother's Day flyer that's tied to the Shopify website. And then this coming Sunday night, we'll flip them all to Sensations, and you can continue to use that until you decide it's time to stop. So let me launch the poll for that. And sorry about the confusion there on the other thing. As I said, we have not used this specific functionality before. And honestly, I mean, we've had as many as 70 people in the room, but we've never been oversold the way we were for this one. It's extremely gratifying. I'm glad to see that you guys are liking what we're doing here. So we are running 83% yes. That's kind of cool too.
Cool.
So again, this is something that
for me.
Pardon me?
Say, if it's free, it's for me, baby.
Oh man, an immigrant once said to me, "Here are the 2 immigrants' rules: never waste food and always take free." And that guy owned 7 jewelry stores, so he figured out how to make the American dream come true for him. Okay, so we're going to end polling, and we're going to go to the next poll, which is the Milestones program. Would you like us to contact you regarding the Milestones direct mail piece? Remember, that's the gorgeous piece that you can mail to 2,500 customers and then also use a flip book multiple times. And those are products that we're actually going to continue to promote all the way through the fall, guaranteed. So let me launch that poll.
Yeah, these are the ones that are 50 cents landed for 2,500, correct?
That's exactly right. 50 cents to print and mail. And wow. We're actually getting a fairly significant response to that as well. I'm really glad to see that 82% of you are saying yes. That's going to give the reps a whole lot of work they got to do. That's good. I tell you, I'm liking this polling thing because we have great ideas and stuff. The problem is to execute and to do it at this level of scale. And I think this is actually going to help. So thank you for participating.
Well, I mean, George, what's it? 45 cents to mail in your light payment? You know what I mean? To put a stamp on a letter is 45 cents. I mean, it's
exactly. Okay, so last question. Would you like more information about having a secondary lender in place as quickly as possible? And again, this isn't committing you to anything because you don't even know. I mean, I've got to send you stuff. I get that. But if this looks like a good idea, we will prioritize getting you guys up because it literally, it's all done. I completed this on Monday. So we could have you up and running essentially as soon as your store opens. And interestingly enough, we are now getting a 75% yes to that group. That's pretty good to see.
Well, there's been a lot of press about the fact that FICOs are tightening, that the lenders are tightening up for sure. So this is it's something I'm definitely looking at.
This is very timely. Okay, so let me just complete this. Now, we will be holding webinars shortly to review the secondary financing program in detail as well. I mean, I think once the word gets out that we're doing this, a lot of our customers are going to want to play with it. But I'm glad this is going to put you guys at the front of the line. And then finally, we really are working on a true B to B to C e-commerce capability. The pandemic has taught me, and I think it's taught a lot of you, that we had all better figure out how to get you into the true e-tailing space. I'm not saying that you should forget your brick and mortar store, but if we could get you to 10 or 20% of your annual volume being stuff that you don't even have to handle. I mean, literally the consumer places the order, you process the money, we process the piece and get it to them. This would be an extremely beneficial scenario. And then if some new crazy thing happens where suddenly you got to close your store again, at least you've got a way of continuing to generate revenue.
Well, you know, and the thing is, we got to think about all the millions of people that are ordering online that have never used Instacart before. Maybe never ordered off Amazon before. I mean, you know, I've had my website up for 5-6 years selling online, and I'm getting a tremendous number of new customers that are local to me that have never shopped online before because they prefer to come in. And as these habits change, this is only going to accelerate.
No question. So anyway, it's my hope that we can help you complete this transition to becoming a true hybrid brick and mortar e-commerce capable retailer. And remember, we have 200,000 pieces in stock that you can sell. It's one heck of a vault. So expect me to have a complete demo site shortly. As soon as we've got that, I will again be reaching out to you. We'll do a webinar where we can kind of walk through it. You know, we're learning more and more how to do this. Again, I'm sorry that we weren't able to do this on Facebook today. We did a test yesterday that worked great. I think we'll figure it out. In the meantime, we will be sending you this as a recording. And all I can say is stay safe, stay well, get ready to rumble, and think about making sure that if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. When you come out of this, come out strong and hard, you will benefit. Oh, and let me also say thanks again, Bob. Thank you for your help with doing this.
Thanks, George. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys, so have a great day, and we look forward to talking to you, and thanks again for coming and listening.
See you guys.